Abject, abjection. Julia Kristeva uses the term abject in her work Powers of Horror, an essay in abjection. In her post-freudian theory of psychoanalysis, Kristeva attempts to disengage the binary logic between subject and object. Abject is the dark, murky, and detested element in the human being. It refers to the state of self in its pre-linguistic phase. It is the sense of panic that the body conveys to us before it has formed into the whole self. Abject is the humiliating presence of the other within what could have otherwise been I. It is a state in which the subject is both I and not I. It is the terrifying void, a fragmentary space from which one can escape only through separation from the mother. Christopher points out that we first experience abjection at the point of separation from the mother. It is a founding and traumatic moment of separation from the indistinguishable relationship with its mother, and the process of expulsion from the body of substances such as excrement. It suggests a rebellious response against that which offered us our existence or state of being. Abjection is the earliest and forgotten struggle to separate from the mother, who is hesitant to identify the realm of the symbolic or the law of the phallus or the law of the father. Before the intervention of the symbolic, there is a prior impulse that compels to expel the mother, and the mother becomes the abject. However, the symbolic intervention of the father alone is not enough to separate the mother and the child. The mother has to be abjected so that the child is detached from the mother. The abject, therefore, is the object of primal repression. The mother is slowly rejected through rituals of cleanliness, toilet training, and eating habits. Through these lessons in horror, the mother is abjected in indicating horror. We must abject the maternal, the object which created us in order to construct an identity for ourselves. When the child fails to cut itself off from the mother because of its innate connection, abject is what the body tries to expel to define itself. Abject is a sign of an undecidable boundary between inside and outside of the body, and therefore of a divided subject. It disrupts identity, system, and order. It is a process by which one separates one's sense of self from that which threatens one's sense of life. It prevents one's absolute awareness of one's existence. For instance, when one gazes at a corpse, it reminds of the inevitability of death. The experience of abjection establishes bodily boundaries by facilitating the difference between ego and non-ego. It summarizes the memory of the violence of separation from a phase of existence preceding to the introduction of object relations. The abject has only one quality of the object, and that is being opposed to I. In other words, the object is opposed to the subject. The border between these two positions is imaginary. When we are pushed into the world of the abject, our imaginary boundaries collapse, and the abject becomes a real challenge because our identity is disturbed. The abject can be located in a liminal state. It is on the margins of two positions. This particular position is significant to Kristeva because of the connection it offers between psychoanalysis and this subconscious mind. Within the borders of subject, a part of oneself, an object, something that exists independently of oneself, there dwells fragments once considered as a part of oneself or one's identity that has since been rejected, and that is abject. Barbara Creed explains the place of the abject as a space where meaning collapses, the place where I am not. The abject threatens life. It must be radically excluded from the place of the living subject, pushed away from the body and deposited on the other side of an imaginary border, which divides the self from that which threatens the self. Kristeva considers abject as perverse because it neither gives up nor assumes a prohibition but turns them aside, misleads, corrupts, uses them, and takes advantage of them. As a result, it is an exploiter or a manipulator who disrupts boundaries, laws, and conventions. It is not the lack of cleanliness or health that causes abjection, but what disturbs identity, system, and order. Abject does not respect borders, positions, rules, but it in itself is an in between, the ambiguous and composite. Abject is violently cast out of the cultural world, having once been a subject. Thus, the sense of the abject complements the existence of superego. To each ego, its object. To each superego, its abject. The abject is part of one's submerged consciousness or personal archive. The abject is fulfilled in the act of writing. It marks the desire of meaning because, as I said earlier, it is in a place where meaning is humiliated and collapsed. The abject is neither presence nor pure negation or nothing. It is something which is on the verge of existence and hallucination. Once I recognize this borderline reality, I am crushed beneath. The abject is purified by religion and art. The best modern literature, that of Dostoevsky, Proust, and Kafka, etc., explores the place of the abject, a place where boundaries begin to break down. It is a space where we are confronted with an archaic space before such linguistic binaries such as self other or subject object. Modern literature, according to Kristeva, is confronted with the threat of extinction or collapse of meaning and is pigeonholed by its constant and horrified evocation of the abject. Kristeva's concept of abjection is used to analyze cultural narratives of horror, misogyny, homophobia, and genocide. The Thief's Journal, a fictionalized autobiography written by the French novelist Jean Genet, has abjection as its seminal theme.